Old Whittington Park. More legendary, immortal ball players played here than anywhere else in history. And that goes for including the great ballparks in all the cities. I mean, I think including Polo Grounds, Fenway and all that, the numbers here are staggering. And when Babe first came here in his rookie year for spring training, he was only known as the Babe for about a year. Subsequent to that, he now has the most nicknames of any man in history, as far as I can determine. And by far, he has hundreds of nicknames. And today, I'd like to christen a couple more nicknames. The Wizard of Whittington and His Majesty of the Majestic. Within a couple of years, he was already the best left-handed pitcher in the league and in baseball. And the future for him spelled out that he would be a Hall of Fame pitcher, no question. But Babe wanted to hit the ball, and he wanted to play every day. And he wanted to be a position player, but they didn't want him. The most valuable thing in baseball at that time was pitching, because of the nature of the scientific game and et cetera, et cetera. But Babe transformed the game in 1918, as Bill Jenkinson has greatly researched. And he did that on 2 days, actually. So you guys are going to have to make some more T-shirts. The first was a week ago, as Mike spelled out there. He hit a ball, if you can all look over there, over that wall, if you can believe that, from home plate here, he hit a ball into the Alligator Park. It was probably the first 500-foot home run. There's one news report, though, that was a little ambiguous, but in reality, it was the first 500-foot home run. And the Brooklyn Dodgers stood up and cheered. I believe it was a grand slam, too, if I recall correctly. And they couldn't believe their eyes. Nobody could believe it. But the very next weekend, 100 years ago today, Babe Ruth stood up to the plate. No one expected him ever to do anything like that again. And he hit a ball further. He hit a ball beyond that basketball hoop, which was, the parking lot was what was called Swan Lake and Baptism Lake. It had two different names. It was a thing of beauty like Swan Lake, and it basically baptized in a new game of baseball, because after that, no one could deny Babe Ruth. They couldn't. The fans were coming from Oak Lawn Racetrack, and instead coming here to see Babe Ruth play, thousands of them. And at that point, that's when the owners realized that now he's more valuable as a hitter. So Babe then became a hitter. And the rest is history in a sense, but he did have to stay another couple of years. He had a great 1918. He broke World Series pitching records. But then he went on to break like 60 hitting records after he became a New York Yankee. Now, we all know the history of the worst trade in history is when the Red Sox gave Babe Ruth to the Yankees. Not only did they trade him, but they traded him to a team they had to play so many games a year. A big mistake. But it was great for the world. And now Babe Ruth is not only one of the most famous baseball, he is the most famous baseball player and the greatest ever. He's one of the most famous Americans ever. He's the ultimate Horatio Alger story. But anyway, so they go to the Yankees. Now, the Yankees were not known for training much in Hot Springs. But Babe kept the tradition going. He made it an annual ritual to come here. Eventually, they wanted to pull him out. The stories are so plentiful, I can't begin to tell you, but they're wonderful, you know. But I think the thing that it goes to what Tom was talking about the most is Babe would come here, a guy who could do anything he wanted at any time at that point. And what he would do, he would look forward to, is he would start hitting balls in his street clothes every year into a mountain across from the Majestic Hotel for the kids to retrieve and have a Babe Ruth ball, a home run. Now, this used to drive the teams crazy because they were upset because they were losing so many balls. Matter of fact, Harry Frazee said this is getting very painful about Babe Ruth hitting so many home run balls. The stories, of course, he did the baths and he did the walk to the park, which I did this morning, by the way. And he even rode horses, and he did the steam baths famously. You can see photos of him in the steam baths, But and he would joke, he would take off 12 pounds a day when he'd come here, but he put 7 back on at night. But the equation was really good, and he ended up being, this was the ultimate training place. It was not only good for his spirit, it was good for his physical conditioning. But the Yankees ultimately moved to St. Petersburg, Florida in '25 because Florida was booming and they could make more money there. And Hot Springs was a victim of its own greatness and success, really, because it was too small a town to hold all the ball teams. So they could play each other and make money. So the Yankees pulled Ruth out of Hot Springs eventually. I like to say they tried to take Babe out with the bathwater, but but Babe kept coming, and he did great, and that's why we're all here celebrating today. And isn't this just so wonderful? I have to thank Tom and Brent are premier historians in their own right. He was giving everybody else credit, but these guys were incredible. And Anita, I've met in St. Petersburg, she does things for the family just incredible. So I want to thank them so much. Steve Arison for making this all happen. This man has the vision, the drive, the talent. It's just incredible. And I've already told you, Bill Jenkinson is the Babe Ruth of Babe Ruth historians. But the people who kept this alive, and I'll try to do this alphabetically, is Mark Lawyer, and Mike Dugan, Don Duran, and who am I missing? Liz Robbins. Yeah. Oh, and Rex Nelson is here. Rex Nelson is incredible. This guy is an incredible guy who sees what this is all about in Hot Springs and is promoting this incredibly. I hope I didn't miss anybody, but and people here from Australia, Japan, Japanese coverage of baseball. This is a truly historic event. Thank you all so much for coming and the privilege of speaking about Babe Ruth. It's a great day.